SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
At Domino's, you can carry out one-topping pizzas for $7.99 every day. Even today, you ask? Let's check howaboutoday.com to find out. Yep, carry out only. As for this offer, availability and charges may vary. Size availability varies by crust type. Excludes XL and specialty. Your local store may charge extra for some toppings and sauces.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21. I want you to believe me, baby.
Hey, good morning. Welcome in. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. And it is a cold start to the day across the Magnolia State. Today's March 17th. It's Tuesday morning, and we are glad to be with you. Thanks for joining us. The show presented every day by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. C Spire text line is open to you. The number, I started to say it's simple. I think it's simple for me because I've said it so many times. 601-879-4395. Whether it's simple or not, just save it in your phone as the C Spire text line and send us a message anytime. We'd love to hear from you. It's the best way to get in touch with us. 601-879-4395. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning, RC. What's happening, brother? That apple looked like it tasted very good and delicious. It was crunchy, fresh.
That was an exceptionally good apple. Juicy.
Yeah, looked it, man. I was kind of making me envious.
Yeah, I had a couple of those yesterday and bit into one and I was like, ooh, hey, you get apple juice on yourself if you're not careful. One of those where it's kind of dripping a little bit, but no, really, really good start to the day. That's the only breakfast so far, though, so.
Nice.
See if I can make it last.
I'm an apple juice or grapefruit juice. That's my breakfast.
Yeah?
The all-natural kind. Sometimes I'll, go with like a Minute Maid if I'm in a pinch and don't have any, but yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm a juice man. That's my breakfast.
I'm a coffee man.
Well, I got to have that, too, yeah, the liquid black stuff.
We got to have the coffee. Oh, me. I told you it was cold. I mean, a freeze warning across most of the state of Mississippi. I'm just going to be honest with you. Talked real big about it yesterday. Didn't cover up a single plant. Not one. Just hoping for the best. I mean, it's one night. It's kind of a gradual fall. Hey, brother, I spent almost all day yesterday shivering.
Oh, I was freezing. I could never warm up.
I mean, Lance, at no point last week while skiing was I as cold as I was yesterday. Just being outside for a little bit, and Jane's got anyway, there were some workers that were there, and I was keeping an eye on what was going on, and so I was in and out. And at one point, I walked around the edge of the building and had a ball cap on, and it full-on blew it off my head. I mean, just a gust out of the north. It was like, holy cow, we got to get past this, which we're going to soon, but it's still going to be chilly today. Tunica, you've got sunny skies along with a few afternoon clouds. Cool with a high of 47, and winds will be out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Leland, mostly sunny skies for you. It's going to be cool, 49 degrees. Light winds at 5 to 10 out of the north. Meridian, mainly sunny sky, cool, 52 degrees. Winds north-northwest, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Going to be cool for you also in Biloxi, but not too bad. We certainly would take this day in, December, January, maybe early February, 56 degrees, winds out of the north at 10 to 15. I think so much of it is mindset.
Well, Leland, that's the home of Kermit the Frog. A little cool for the frogs right now. But
Kermit the Frog here.
They'll be out before you know it.
Yes. They will be. And then there's going to be a night somewhere along the line, would you shut up, frogs?
The locusts, the frogs, everything. It's amazing how quiet it actually is in the winter when there's no wind before the bugs and frogs and everything start chirping up and getting in.
Yes, you were right about that. Some interesting birthdays today. Kurt Russell, 1951 is when he was born, the iconic actor known for films like Escape from New York and The Thing and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
And the Battered Bastards of Baseball, too. You know, he was a minor league baseball player. Played in Single-A Portland, the Portland Mavericks in the Northwest League. His dad owned the team, and they played an independent brand of baseball. High attendance. It was what you kind of think of the Savannah Bananas. They didn't do the tricky stuff, but they were the underdogs. And Kurt was a pretty good player. I think he was second baseman.
I believe that.
If you've never seen the documentary, though, it is fantastic. Called The Battered Bastards of Baseball. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Rob Lowe was born on this day in 1964. Famous for a bunch of roles. The West Wing, Parks and Rec, St. Elmo's Fire, if you want to go back to the 80s, The Outsiders.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty accomplished list for Rob Lowe.
I forgot about The Outsiders there.
Mm-hmm. I liked The West Wing.
Yeah, I don't remember much about it. I just remember Martin Sheen. Pretty much.
He was the president.
Yeah.
Gary Sinise, the acclaimed actor and director, best known for Forrest Gump, CSI New York, and his work with veterans through the Gary Sinise Foundation. He has been a big-time activist for veterans and has raised just buku amounts of money. Patrick Duffy, Bobby Ewing in the TV series Dallas, and Step by Step. You remember Step by Step? That was part of...
Not at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't think you would. It was part of Friday night, like TGIF TV.
Okay. I believe
you had Full House
and... Never watched Full House.
I believe that.
Not like I wasn't against it or anything. It just wasn't. You know, back then you had to actually be sitting there to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wasn't on my schedule.
Well, you were older at that point. You were a few years ahead of me, and I mean that was like elementary school days. I was home on Friday nights most of the time, and there you go. Hozier, Irish singer and songwriter behind hits like "Take Me to Church" and "From Eden." "Take Me to Church" I don't love the message in the song, but in terms of like a powerful kind of, it's got big blends in it. Nat King Cole, the legendary jazz pianist and singer with classics like Unforgettable and the Christmas song. He was born on this day in 1919. Mia Hamm. Did you realize she was born in 1972?
No. I didn't know she was older than I am,
Yeah, born in 1972, the soccer legend, two-time Olympic gold medalist and FIFA Women's World Cup winner, one of the greatest female athletes of all time. Gottlieb Daimler.
Heck of a name there.
Was born on this day in 1834, the German engineer and inventor who pioneered the high-speed gasoline engine and co-founded what became Mercedes-Benz. Hey, I finally took your advice, Lance.
What'd you do?
Over the course of, I don't know, we've been together a year and a half or so, maybe a little more, a little less. Anyway, you have recommended that I watch a lot of things. A lot of things. I finally watched one. Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh, that's a good one, too. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. Really, really good. And then my favorite birthday on this list, born in 1902, the great Bobby Jones.
I was looking for his legal record, but...
Co-founder of the Augusta National Golf Club and the Masters Tournament. Considered one of the all-time greats in golf. He is, without debate, without question, without compare, the greatest amateur golfer to ever live. He was an attorney. He was a part-time architect, a golf course designer, certainly an imperfect man, but one of the absolute gentlemen and greats in the game of golf.
Retired at 28.
From professional golf.
Yeah, not from law and family man, but from golf as an amateur. Had 13 majors in that short period of time. Dude could play.
I've shown it to you before. I got it back here somewhere. Let's see, where is it? I think the book's called, the Grand Slam.
Grand Slam, yeah.
It's about the four majors at the time were the U.S. Open, the British Open, the U.S. Amateur, and the British Amateur. And he won all four of them in the same calendar year, and it nearly killed him. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. St. Patrick's Day's origins date to roughly 461 AD, the death of St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, whose missionary work helped spread Christianity there. March 17th became his feast day, celebrated globally as St. Patrick's Day. And the first ever St. Patrick's Day parade in the United States happened in 1762 when Irish soldiers in the British Army held the inaugural parade in New York City, marking the start of America's long tradition of St. Patrick's Day celebrations. Got your green on?
I do.
We're back with you after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, just getting started. Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Wake up.
Yes, do it.
Wake up.
Come on.
All right.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Wake up.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me. Think, let your mind go, let yourself be free. Let's go back, let's go way on, way back when. I didn't even know you couldn't have been too much.
You do realize if I throw out a couple of movies that are associated with a particular actor, it is not a comprehensive list. That might not ever be more true than with Kurt Russell.
Oh, yeah.
Who?
Bone Tomahawk. That's a hard one to watch.
Christmas Chronicles,
Oh, yeah.
Miracle, 3,000 Miles to Graceland, Executive Decision, Backdraft. Do you remember Backdraft, the fireman movie?
Got the Baldwin in it, yeah.
Whew.
Stephen, one of them, he was the young Baldwin.
How about in 1979, a little movie called Elvis?
I don't remember that one. Gotta go find that.
1979, Elvis. Kurt Russell played Elvis Presley. Bing Russell played Vernon Presley.
What a dude Bing
Susan
was.
Hubley was Priscilla. Shelley Winters played Gladys Presley. Pat Hingle played Colonel Tom Parker.
We got
Ed Begley Jr. played DJ Fontana.
Ed Begley Jr. Love that guy. Was it Transylvania 65000? But yeah, there's two here that obviously keep popping up: Overboard and Tombstone. Mm-hmm. Those are two winners there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Very much two winners. Susan Hubley is somebody that he actually was married to.
Okay.
Anyway, we move on.
I like the Escape from L.A. and Escape from New York. John Carpenter flicks. Love those.
A couple of other things that happened on this day. British evacuation of Boston in 1776 during the American Revolutionary War. British troops under General William Howe evacuated Boston after George Washington's successful siege and fortification of Dorchester Heights. That was commemorated as Evacuation Day in Beantown. On this day in 1941, the opening of the National Gallery of Art, the iconic United States Museum in Washington, D.C., opened its doors featuring a major collection donated by Andrew Mellon and dedicated by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This was kind of cool. 1958, the launch of Vanguard 1. The U.S. launched the world's first solar-powered satellite and the oldest human-made object that is still in orbit from Cape Canaveral, Florida, a key milestone in the early space race.
I think it's got an ashtray on it, like 1958.
Probably so.
Probably they had to install that. That was required.
It had the little flip-up deal like you had in the arm of a plane.
That's what I'm talking about.
You realize that there are now 2 generations of people who, certainly a full generation, maybe 2, that are like, what do you mean an ashtray on a plane?
Yeah. They're welded shut now.
Well, they don't, like, those planes aren't even around. I cannot remember the last time I was on an airplane that had an ashtray even that was, like, used to be there in it. Like, maybe not in a decade. People used to smoke on airplanes.
It used to be a party.
People used to smoke cigarettes on airplanes in the air. Think about that. Can you imagine?
I remember flying to Dallas. We were going to, I think it was Colorado, and you could still smoke on those planes back then. And we went through the worst storm coming back from Dallas to Jackson, and they couldn't vent the air or something, and it had that layer about 3 feet that was just compacted to the top of the fuselage.
My goodness.
It was just, I remember that like yesterday, going, man, that's a lot of smoke. I hope we're not on fire.
News headlines for you this morning. GE Aerospace announced last week that the company is investing another $18 million into its Batesville site on top of the $11 million that it invested a year ago. So that's a running total of about $30 million plugged into the existing plant. The company's announcement came Monday, I think of last week, as part of a new $1 billion investment in its U.S. manufacturing sites and supplier base during 2026 to help accelerate engine deliveries, ramp production of parts, and strengthen defense production to keep pace with military demand. GE said in a statement the 2026 investment, the company's second consecutive $1 billion U.S. investment, will benefit sites across more than 30 communities in 17 states. GE Aerospace also plans to hire 5,000 U.S. workers, including both manufacturing and engineering roles, in addition to the 5,000 people that it hired last year. GE Aerospace said the Batesville site plays a key role in the ramp-up of production of their CFM LEAP engine used on narrow-body aircraft, but then also some components that are used in wide-body aircraft. The Mississippi site investment will be added and will add and upgrade production equipment and tooling to expand ceramic, matrix, composite components, additional inspection equipment, and facility upgrades. I've never known what exactly they do at GE Aerospace. I've just always known that you drive by there on Highway 6 on your way into or out of Batesville, and it just kind of sits there to itself. I mean, there are buildings around it. He's got neighbors. Just kind of look over there, you're like, wonder what they do there. GE, big company. Man.
I don't go get you a tour of that place.
You know what I really wanted for the longest time? I wanted the grass mowing contract for that GE facility. Look, man,
love it.
I cut grass for a long time, and God bless him, Willie still helps me with it. My man Willie keeps me on the straight and narrow. So you were looking for commercial properties, and every time, and I never really like investigated it or checked into it, but I'm like, man, that's like 20 or 30 acres in one spot, mostly flat. You got the hill in the front. I bet they pay on time.
You were going through
Probably
the
got
checklist.
No, man, I was through. I'm like, if we need to get another lawnmower, if we need to grow the crew, any additional backpack, whatever we need to do, we got it. I never followed through on that. Should have. That would have been a good one, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like you had that one figured out. That's the kind you're looking for. No hills,
Yeah, other than down to the road, but it didn't look like as, kind of as rough as some of those. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
I bet you'd have had it
good
looking.
for GE.
Yeah, you'd have had it looking great too.
Oh man, and whoever cuts the grass there does a good job. I mean, it's always, I thought, looked neat and clean and well presented and all those things, but we'd have had it looking fine as frog's hair, and there ain't no doubt.
Kermit the Frog hair.
All five, yes, well played. All 5 union organizations at Ingalls Shipbuilding in Pascagoula have now ratified new collective bargaining agreements with HII, that's Huntington Ingalls Industries, following voting by their members, or as the President of the United States might say, industries. Don't understand that one. The new contract going to run through March of 2031. More than 11,000 employees at Ingalls. It's the largest manufacturing employer in Mississippi. Negotiations between HII and Ingalls Company leadership and union representatives concluded back in the middle of February, with the parties reaching consensus on contract proposals to bring forward a vote. Ratification followed after you had members of the Pascagoula Metal Trades Council, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, or IBEW, the Office and Professional Employees International Union, the International Association of Machinists, and the United States, the United Federation of Special Police and Security Officers. What they landed on was an immediate 18% or higher base wage increase for union-represented shipbuilders, the largest single wage increase in Ingalls shipbuilding history. The company said on Thursday of last week that the collective bargaining agreement for union-represented shipbuilders provides historic wage growth of 35 to 47% through 2031. Folks at both HII and Ingalls are hopeful that this will improve recruitment and attrition, that will enable accelerated throughput, getting more ships built and out the door faster. Interesting story. Mississippi, obviously a right-to-work state. Not a lot of union activity, but there is in that massive, massive manufacturing operation. Probably not surprisingly so. Feels like in this particular scenario, probably paid off. Net positive for the union members. Good to be with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. We've got your morning sports update presented by Pearl River Resort on the other side of this timeout.
From the Seabrook.
In the car, at home, or at work, it's always free to listen to Super Talk Mississippi and Mornings with Richard Cross.
I'm gonna get up in the morning, hit Highway 49. I'm gonna get up in the morning, hit Highway 49. I be looking for my baby, Mel Vida's down on my mind.
Tuesday morning, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Thanks for joining us. You want to be part of the conversation, you can do so on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. Thomas says, good morning to you as well. Thomas?
We got us a Highway 49er in there. Thank you. Coming in from Clarksdale.
Into Clarksdale.
That's right.
Coming from the north or the south? Howlin' Wolf and Super Talk say, there you go.
That's how we work here.
Beautiful. You got some baseball this afternoon. May want to pull your parka out if you're going to go watch in Oxford when Ole Miss hosts Austin Peay. Game time has been moved from 6:30 to 4 o'clock. So hopefully sunshine hangs around for a while and makes it a little more bearable. Mississippi State hosting Jackson State today. Same deal in Starkville. Game time moved up, 4 o'clock first pitch. Hoping to catch a little bit warmer temperatures for that one. And Southern Miss going to hook up with the Colonels of Nichols. Used to be Nichols State. Now it's just Nichols. All of the smaller schools in Louisiana have identity crises. None of them are what they used to be. Just Nichols. So Southern Miss and Nichols, that's in Biloxi tonight at the Shuckers Park. Be sure to check that out. Game time not changed there, but maybe still a little bit chilly.
A few green beers will be sold today, I bet.
I would imagine so. I don't know if anybody else will do it. I know Ole Miss always does the green.
They got the lid.
The green hat, yeah.
I saw the advertisement for it this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have some green cotton candy, too, from the pick, it looks like.
You saw the advertisement.
I did.
The green on St. Patrick's Day, it's an entire industry.
It is.
Or industry, if you prefer. Did you see this one yesterday? Alabama basketball star Aiden Holloway, second leading scorer on the Crimson Tide's team, just 4 days before the Crimson Tide are to take the court for the NCAA tournament. Aiden Holloway is facing 2 felony drug charges. Tuscaloosa County Police spokesperson Stephanie Taylor said that Holloway was arrested yesterday morning, transported to the county jail, to the clink, to the lockup, after agents with the West Alabama Narcotics Task Force searched the residence near Alabama's campus. It was his, and they recovered more than a pound of marijuana, along with paraphernalia and cash. It's a Class C felony. The second charge, failure to affix a tax stamp. Are you familiar with this one, Lance?
Not necessarily, but...
So, there are about 24 states in the United States that require you to pay an excise tax on contraband. Alabama is one of those states. Now, the Department of Revenue is not supposed to turn over information to that state's investigating authorities about who buys tax stamps for contraband. But if you're doing bad stuff with weed, like selling it, then you got to have your tax stamp. Otherwise, you get popped with another felony. So you got bad guys that play by the rules and bad guys that don't play by the rules, and the bad guys that don't play by the rules, they get an extra felony on there.
Goodness. Well, and there are dispensaries, too. I mean, you'd think the black market business would be suffering.
$3.50 per gram. A pound is about 400 grams, give or take.
Oh, they can get you there.
I mean, it'd be about $1,500 worth of tax stamp liability that Aiden Holloway would have needed to. That's what he would have needed to have coverage for.
He could have started a stamp collection, while he's in jail.
Depending on the quality of the marijuana, somewhere between $3,000 or $4,000 in street value. I mean, that's really eating into your profit. And so I understand you got to make a pretty difficult decision. Hey, do I run the risk of double felony here and not get the tax stamp? I mean, I'm not really planning on. I can't imagine that there are many who have that quantity of drugs with the intent to sell them that are planning to get caught.
Man, he might have just been wanting to have a party.
That is, maybe he was generous with friends.
Yeah, he's got an NIL.
He was making so much money through his NIL stuff that he had the money to buy a lot. He just kept some cash on hand because it's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, man, he's got, like some of these guys buy their line dinner and stuff. He might have just been handing out, quarter bags.
Yeah, making brownies.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Good Samaritan.
Like kind of the team mom. In fairness, my interaction with Aiden Holloway through the years has been limited, but has always been pleasant. Not to say that he wouldn't be pleasant, just because he... Anyway, that's... keep an eye on that one, see where it goes. There are a lot of people that thought Alabama would not even punish him. He has been dismissed from the team and the university pending investigation. 5 teams, Duke, Michigan, Arizona, Purdue, and Houston, at some point during the basketball season were national title favorites. 3 teams have separated themselves in the eyes of odds makers. Duke is the odds-on favorite at plus 300, followed by number 1 seeds Michigan at plus 360 and Arizona at plus 390. The reigning national champion Florida is the 4th number 1 seed at plus 750. Those are the only 4 teams with odds shorter than plus 1,000. If you just want the quick tutorial, the easiest way to understand what those numbers mean, if you bet $100, that is what you win. So if you bet Duke to win the entire NCAA tournament, meaning they have to win 6 games over the course of 3.5 weeks, you bet $100, you win $300. If you take Florida and they win it all, you bet $100, they win $750. Duke is the pre-tournament favorite for the 2nd straight year and the 10th time overall, tying North Carolina for the most tournaments as the favorite since 1979. The pre-tournament favorite has gone on to win it in 8 of the last 20 years. Duke, without a couple of key pieces on its team, we will see how that affects the Blue Devils. Audrey Gagniat defended her individual national championship, highlighting a big weekend for the Ole Miss rifle team. The Rebels reached the podium of the NCAA championship for the 2nd time in program history, finishing 3rd overall in the 8-team field. Gagniat made individual history by shooting her 4th career 600 in air rifle, tying Ole Miss all-timer Leah Horvath for the most by a Rebel in program history. In doing so, she also became the 2nd woman and 3rd ever student athlete to achieve perfection 4 times at the NCAA level. This was year 1 of the Will Shaner era, after a coaching change following last year's postseason run. 2nd consecutive 10-win year and an overall title in small bore, along with an individual national championship for Audrey Gagniat. Congratulations, Audrey. It's pretty awesome. Think she could outshoot you, Lance?
Definitely. Yeah, that's not even going to be a game there, man. She'd take all my money.
Yeah.
I'd happily learn, too. You know, I'd be like, hey, show me how you did that.
Tell me.
Yeah, give me some tricks to the trade here.
Yeah. Good morning, Richard. Are you calling any of the games in the tournament this year? I suppose it depends on which tournament you are talking about. If it is the NCAA tournament, no. That is a CBS property, and I am not a CBS employee. We're talking about the NIT, yeah. In fact, I will join you, hadn't even told Lance this yet, I will join you tomorrow morning from Orem, Utah.
Nice. It'd be good and warm there.
Yeah. Actually, it'll be warmer than it is here in Utah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Get you some more skiing
Just, I am reading travel nightmare story after travel nightmare story and knowing that I have to leave this afternoon, and I'm going to be there for about 30 hours. I'll take a red-eye home after the game tomorrow night. It's Utah Valley and George Washington. All right. Mac, back with more after this. Mornings of Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank.
From the Venable Glass.
Social during the show at SuperTalk Mississippi on Facebook. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
Good to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. It's time for your Mississippi Lottery update online, mslottery.com. No Powerball winner last night, so tomorrow night's drawing, Wednesday night's drawing, will be up to $101 million, about a $46 million jackpot there. The numbers from last night, 7, 10, 20, 47, 52. The Powerball was 20, and the Power Play multiplier was 2. Just had a winner with Mega Millions, so this drawing is worth $60 million. That's tonight. $27.1 million is the cash value. No Millionaire for Life winner. I'm like a broken record on this. I just think it's the coolest lottery game ever.
The Millionaire for Life.
And look, I recognize that you can do that if you so choose with a Powerball or a Mega Millions jackpot. You can choose the annuity, but taking the choice out of it, it's a really cool idea. It's like if my options are give me all the money at once and I will trust myself to invest it, or give it to me incrementally because I can't help myself, I got to make that choice. And everybody chooses the big one because the math works better. But if you just take the choice away and it's like, hey, you scratch all the numbers here, you match all the numbers here, we're giving you $1 million every year for the rest of your life. Well, how cool is that?
Yeah, I'm taking it.
How cool is that? Would you continue to work? Would you shut it down? Would you live extravagantly? Would you live just as you live right now for a little while?
No, I would take it to the nth degree, the next level.
You would be broke as a joke until that check came a year from now?
The day before that check came, there would be nothing in the account. Yeah. I'd be eating ramen that night.
I think it'd be the week before.
You think so?
I think you'd be kind of sitting around the week before being like,
man, I didn't do the math right here.
Jeez. Guys, just give me a week. I'll be back. That check deposits, and he's like, I'm back!
Yeah, I'm back, baby. I'm back.
Oh, man, congratulations to all the recent winners with the Mississippi Lottery. Biloxi man won $55,000 on a ticket from Sprint Mart in Canton on a match 5. 50,000 on a Millionaire Maker $30 scratch-off for a Mobile man. Got it at the Miss Al Market in Moss Point. It's your Mississippi Lottery update. Thomas in Greenwood says, come on, rain bet. He says, might go to the dock more often to prolong the income. Jeez. Amanda in Pike County says she would buy out the deer camp across the road.
Uh-oh.
Is this because you don't want neighbors?
Or either she likes to deer hunt or they run dogs or something.
Somebody says they're pretty sure you can take a lump sum with Millionaire for Life.
Well, I'm sure anybody, they'll be happy to pay you a discount, yeah. Call old J.G. Wentworth.
I have the jingle going through my head right now as you say that.
Guy.
I mean, that's effective advertising, right?
I love that guy, too.
Oh, boy.
He had that kind of, the angle on his smile that made you wonder, is he really legit? Call J.G. Wentworth. I don't know about that. Yeah, that was a good commercial.
I wouldn't tell anyone I want it, but the amount of cows and horses that just show up to the farm with a new tractor would be a sign. Yeah, that's my favorite answer on, oh, would you tell anybody if you won the lottery? No, I wouldn't tell anybody, but there would be signs.
There would be signs.
The Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann, will join us coming up at 7:20 this morning. Looking forward to that conversation with about a little less than 3 weeks remaining in this year's legislative session. What have they accomplished versus what is going to be accomplished? We were talking about it in a staff meeting yesterday. As of right now, There are 4 bills that have made it to the governor's desk for his signature. The House and the Senate have agreed on 4 things. Biomarkers, the deadbeat kids bill. You know, if you're gambling and you win, and you're not paying child support, they can yank it and send it back. TRICARE, which was covering the insurance costs for National Guard members. And what was the 4th? There was one other. And that's all. And that's not to belittle those 4 things by any stretch. But in 2.5 months, there are 4 pieces of legislation that have made it to the governor's desk. Oh, the other one was the carryover from last year. Anyway, we're back after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, 7 o'clock hour on the way.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
News, interviews, weather, sports, all right here, all morning long. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Because I'm sitting on top of the world. One summer day.
Pleasure being with you this morning on Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. This tax season, C Spire is helping you stretch your refund and still get the devices you want. Right now, new and current customers can get 3 free devices plus 100 gigs of data for just $100. It's all part of C Spire's Unlimited Connect bundle. Any new iPhone or Samsung Galaxy for free. And a free smartwatch and a tablet to go with it. So don't wait. There's more to see. Shop now at cspire.com or visit your local C Spire store today. Lance.
Yes, sir.
If I give you a $100 bill, will you go get the new C Spire Ultimate Connect bundle and get an iPhone so I don't have to look at green messages from you anymore?
Man, I'd be so lost on an iPhone, but I
That was
need
not
to
the
upgrade.
question. The question is, if I give you a $100 bill, will you do it?
I probably, if you say so.
You get a watch and a tablet too, man.
Yeah, I mean, I could use all that. My phone, you can see the keyboard, you know,
All right,
when it's not on.
text me with a green bubble your Venmo, and I'll send it to you right now. Do you have Venmo?
Oh, definitely. I'm up to
Yes.
speed on that, yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We just made a transaction. I'm going to do that in lieu of the lunch that I've owed you for a year and a half now for some bet that I lost to you.
Yeah, I don't even remember what it was.
I don't either, but I do know that I lost. I do know that I owe. So this is with interest.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of interest too, yeah.
I will do a jig in the streets when I see a blue message, a blue bubble pop up from Lance on text.
Yeah, with your credit score, I probably wouldn't be able to get an extra $50 out of you. You know, your interest rate on a year would be like, 6%. It wouldn't be like a payday loan.
Yeah, I don't know. Mornings with Richard Cross brought to you by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams, whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business. We're here every step of the way. We are dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. Budgeting. It's one of the things that's happening I guess it's probably not happening in D.C. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot of budget work happens in D.C. They just spend, and then when you run out of money, spend some more. Print it, take it up, borrow it, whatever. Just spend. Mississippi has been fiscally pretty responsible, but we are to the part of the legislative session where budget conversations and allocation of dollars is kind of at the top of the priority list. By the way, I was not suggesting at the end of the last hour that the legislature hasn't gotten anything done or that they won't get anything done. But as we sit here on the 17th of March, there are 4 bills that the House and the Senate have agreed on and have sent to the desk of the governor. And one of them was frankly was done a year ago. There was just one line in the bill that had to be changed per the governor's request. He vetoed the previous con law bill. They cleaned up the language in that, sent it over, it was signed. And then you got biomarkers, deadbeat parents, and TRICARE. So insurance companies have to pay for biomarkers so that we can help with cancer rates. Pretty easy for everybody to agree on. If you're not paying child support and you're gambling, casinos can now withhold your winning to pay your child support. Okay, we can get behind that. I think there's some little bit of devil in the details on the way that it is implemented, but at least the idea there is a good one. And we're going to pay the insurance costs for our National Guard members. Boom, boom, boom. And the Certificate of Need laws bill. That's it. We're going to talk to the Lieutenant Governor coming up in just a few minutes about this. Last year it took overtime to get a budget done. Well, it was the Senate's fault. Well, actually, it was the House's fault. Okay. Well, the House said, we're going home on this day. Well, the Senate tried to negotiate before that day, and that didn't happen. Okay. Bottom line is, the governor had to call a special session last year at the expense of the taxpayers, and it didn't take very long to get it done once they were there in Jackson. But the governor had to do that for the legislature to get a budget passed. Can we avoid that this year? Maybe for a budget. It is my understanding that there is some significant work that has been going on behind the scenes with some of the appropriators that kind of stay below the radar that have made massive progress on the budget. That is not to say that it cannot have a hang-up at the 23rd hour, or the 9th hour, whatever the phrase is on that, at the last minute. It's not to say it can't have a hold-up at the last minute, but largely the work on the budget that needs to be done so that it can be finished before sine die has been done. Largely. But what else? Strike all amendments were made to 2 Senate appropriation bills to reflect the House of Representatives' stance on state support for public community colleges and universities. Speaker Jason White said the strike all amendments only reflect totals proposed by the House, and they are not final. He also added that the appropriation bills sent over by the Senate were not taken up in groups or in block in an effort to keep the members abreast of how these figures may change as they move through the process. He had a quote last week in which he, being the speaker, said, "Our appropriators thought that you, as members, ought to see where the House positions exactly are on the number now. Whether we agree with the numbers or not, don't be surprised when conference is invited." Conference being Senate coming together as well. So that's a lot of kind of legalese and legislative mumbo-jumbo. Not saying that anything that the speaker said is wrong, but if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. Here's what you need to know. the House's position, and by the way, if you're like, what's a strike all bill? It's when you take a bill that is still active within the legislative process that is not going to be passed, right? There are some bills that you keep active just for that purpose. It's like, oh, this is a nothing bill. Don't kill it. We may need it. And so you take Senate Bill 3063 that the House has no intention of passing and is of no good or no need, and you just strike all, which means mark out everything that is in the bill, but the bill itself is still alive. And then you put the language that you need for whatever it is that you're talking about into that, and Senate Bill 3063 all of a sudden becomes a community college and university funding bill. It's a workaround on deadlines and whatever else as they continue to negotiate through the process. Here's the bottom line. $870,700,000 for community colleges. $100 million of that is above the legislative budget request that came from the community colleges, but is set aside for capital expenses. 15 community colleges, $100 million. A lot of repairs that need to be made on a lot of campuses, a lot of projects that are being dreamed of along the way. That money would be divvied out based on enrollment, campus size, number of buildings, square footage, number of employees, etc. There's still a conversation that is happening about raises for teachers at universities and colleges. And then on the university side, the request from the IHL came in at $1.7 billion. The legislative budget request that the House Budget Committee was bouncing around was $53 million more than that $1.7 billion. The most interesting thing, though, came from State Representative Becky Curry when she's like, hey, have we thought about getting rid of the IHL? We've got a $350 million deficit appropriation for Medicaid. Maybe we could save some money by not funneling it through IHL. They said, we'll talk about it.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
As the sun rises, he has all the news you need. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, supertalk.fm, and the SuperTalk app.
Richard on the radio, praying for another black domino. Oh.
7 o'clock hour of MRC brought to you by MWG. That's MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Call today at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. I'm joined now by the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann. Full disclosure, normally, and this is like from a flow standpoint, before the Lieutenant Governor comes on, someone in his office will reach out and say, hey, are there any particular topics that you want to talk about? The Lieutenant Governor might like to discuss this. And we just kind of friendly communication, no scripted questions, nothing planned in advance. I just want you to know that has not happened in advance of this interview. This is just kind of, we're talking about where we are in the session. And Lieutenant Governor, I was talking a little while ago about the fact that, at least by my count, 4 bills have made it to the governor's desk so far. I know there's a lot of work that's happening behind the scenes. Is that low for where we are in the session? Should more have gotten done at this point?
That just tells you why we need to talk before we start. Actually, I've gotten back from the governor over 40 bills already signed into law. And,
okay.
Yes, so that is ongoing.
But are those proclamations and amendments, or are those actual?
No. There's like, it's a whole plethora of different things. Starkville, October Hall, and Mississippi State University are joining to do a new school there, for example. There's a Mississippi Grain Indemnity Act. As you know, Greenwood went broke and really bankrupt and almost bankrupt all our farmers there and had grains there. And then we've had another one in Tallulah that sold grain here.
Okay.
So it's a fund that you voluntarily get into that allows for you to get your money back when things like that happen, when somebody goes bankrupt or takes off with the money. Real Estate Act to allow people to show homes without having to have an agreement in advance of when they go in there. life insurance for National Guard members, which is, of course, particularly relevant right now.
I did have that one. That's what. So if there were 40 correct answers on the test, give or take, I got 4 of them right, and life insurance for National Guard was one of them.
Well, actually, you had the insurance. We pay for health insurance, and health insurance was the one you were speaking about. But this is their life insurance. There's 2 bills. There's 2 in there. One we pay for.
Oh, okay, so TRICARE was the health insurance, and then there's the life insurance piece
correct.
as well.
That's correct.
Okay.
So you got one right. I didn't bring that one up, but you're right. You did get that one right. So.
That's
so
fair.
no, we got them all. He signed them all. We didn't have any vetoes except one. He returned one without his signature. That was LaFleur County Greenwood Hospital, which has applied to go bankrupt. And I was involved in that one. I started going up there about a year and a half ago. Hospital really struggled. Had a lot of problems, and it's. Very few people were actually in the hospital anymore, and it's whole plethora of things. And anyway, they now will be able to go bankrupt, and someone else will take over the hospitals, and those are ongoing negotiations, which is very positive, I think, from where we are right now. And their financial, I met with the board several different times and whatnot. I'm not going to get into all the discussions, but it will now go up for bid, and I'm very hopeful that we'll have a strong person to take over a hospital. That's very important to the Delta. It's been an anchor for healthcare there in the Delta. So that's very positive. The governor let it go into law without signing it yesterday.
We heard from the governor last week that he has, in his 7 years as the chief executive of the state, not called a special session for a policy-related need.
Right.
But that might be on the horizon this year. Said too early to tell, and I don't think it was a threat by the governor, but as it pertains to school choice and a teacher pay raise. There's been so much talk about that. It's kind of what we led off the session with. It has continued to be bounced back and forth, especially on the teacher pay raise side of things. Is this going to have to end in a special session, or is there going to be some sort of agreement between now and then?
First of all, I don't make that decision. He does, but it won't be over teacher pay. The House passed a teacher pay raise, and we passed a teacher pay raise.
Okay.
Ours.
Is that going to end in conference?
Yeah, it's headed to conference now, and I think I'm hopeful. Ours was $2,000 a year for 3 years. Theirs was $5,000 for the first year. Theirs was about $291 million up front. Ours is about $100 million, a little over $100 million per year. Ours included university professors and community college professors. I think that's very important. They're teaching kids that are actually going out and making more money than they are teaching them. So I think that was important. So there were some differences there, and it's going to conference, and I'm very hopeful we'll end up with a teacher pay raise, hopefully with all those increments in it, and also money for our teachers.
What about the back and forth, the amendment that they had to a bill last week that pushed that pay raise to $6,000 and then also had the cap on the superintendent salaries at 250%? Is that getting off in the weeds too much, or is that part of this discussion that matters?
They do that sometimes. It was a 500-page bill again, and it had everything from freezing superintendents' salaries to compensation to a whole number of different things. And the Senate works in a little bit different way. We like to look at our issues one at a time. So we're sending back bills that, of course, that cover teacher pay raise, that cover these issues one at a time, and we're voting them up or down as they go. The big one will come back in parts, really, back to the House, so they'll be able to take a look at the different ones that they sent us, but really with a clear eye on one issue at a time.
So House Bill 2 was the big omnibus bill that started the session that they sent to you. You sent to them a bunch of smaller pieces of that bill. And you and I have talked about this in the past.
Right.
There was a lot of agreement between what the House originally submitted and what you submitted to them in pieces. But because universal school choice, which was part of House Bill 2, was not approved, it seems to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with this, that has caused the discussions on many of the other things to go away.
Well, not really. We have there were other issues in there. Sports betting was in there. That you're right about that. That went away to a separate bill.
Why does that keep dying in the Senate?
Well, because not a majority of them don't want it. I guess that's the easiest way
Well, that's not what the
determine.
gaming commissioner told us a couple of weeks ago.
Well, he'd have to come over and take a poll. You're welcome to add them up. They, in our discussions, we had a majority of the individuals that are licensed in Mississippi. I think 8 were opposed and 7 were in favor of it. So it's about a split vote in the gaming group. And there are a significant number of issues that are in the Senate that they've raised about that. They range from I don't know if you know this or not, but people who are addicted to gaming, 1 out of 5 commit suicide. That's a pretty sobering thought for most of my senators and for me personally. And then I remember Governor DeWine, who was a Republican governor of Ohio. They asked him what the worst decision he made during the 8 years he just retired. During the 8 years he was there, and he said putting sports betting in. And then the other thing, this prop betting has come up. You know, Richard, where that's not taxable by us. It's considered to be a national way to contract between individuals and not governed by the gaming laws. We don't get any money out of that. And it has ballooned up to where it may be by the end of this year more favorable than sports betting. So the whole industry is changing in addition to all those things that I told you right there. But there are a number of the other issues that were raised by different ones. If you remember when we got gaming to start with, they were along the river counties and the coast. And in inland, there are a lot of people who are just not really interested in gaming. And so that's why there's no casinos in Tupelo. So there are some issues that I think, some moral issues with some of our senators have with gaming, and they vote consistently against any gaming and against any alcohol bill for that matter. So there are a lot of different reasons striking different members of the Senate, but right now it's not going through.
Has it ever come to the floor for a vote, for a full vote from the Senate?
I don't recall. I can't recall. I don't believe it has.
So why not? Because there are a lot of people, to your point, there are a lot of people that don't want that, but there are a lot of people that do in Mississippi. Why not bring it to the floor and just let the Senate as a body vote on it?
Well, every single one of these, goes through committee, and so you don't come directly to the vote. And we have a gaming committee, and they study it, and they vote in the committee. And we have over 1,000 bills, Richard, and probably 250 of them will make it to the floor. So the chairman control those votes and who gets votes, and a lot of times those are voted down.
But if there's a conversation that consistently comes up year after year after year, and it's a hot button of enough conversation that people continue to ask about it, why not get it out of committee and to the floor, and then just have an open vote so people can see where your senators stand one way or the other?
I don't object to an open vote. I just don't think the votes are there. So, you could bring it out, but I don't think their votes are there to pass it. And so we'll see what the chairman does. I've signed it again to the gaming, and it has a finance component, so I signed it to finance, and we'll see if those committee chairmen bring it out for a vote.
Well, and the chairman's told us before that he doesn't support it, and he doesn't think that it'll get out of committee, so we'll that probably
that's always
is
a real bad sign if you want your bill out. If
the
chairman doesn't support
it is. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me when people continue to say that. And it's anecdotal, right? It's not scientific that people continue to say, give us online sports betting over and over. We derailed a little bit.
They have it right now. You can go online and do the prop betting, the proposition betting, and that looks to me like it's going to replace sports betting entirely, and we don't get any money on it.
But I was going to say, if it doesn't replace it entirely, we're still missing out on the tax revenue that might be generated from it.
Yeah, well, that's not we could tax a lot of things. We're trying to cut taxes.
There you go. We will try to veer back onto the tracks. It's my fault that we got off there with the Lieutenant Governor right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Before you grab your keys, you've got the news that matters. Back to Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi, and the Super Talk app.
Good to be with you this morning, and happy to have the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann, in studio as my guest. And we're kind of covering the gamut here as we've got about 3 weeks left in the regular legislative session.
We do. I have one that I know you're interested in. and that's
Tell it.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. We signed a ice storm bill yesterday and sent it to the governor.
Okay.
Which means basically that we will set up a revolving loan fund for all those 31 counties that were affected by the ice storm, and we're going to put. Right now, it's looking like $100 million in that account to allow for interest-free loans, 0% loans, to all of the cities and counties that had such huge losses during the ice storm, particularly on debris removal, as you know, probably looking out in your front yard. So I'm real pleased that we got that through.
It's almost gone.
It's almost gone. No,
you got one pile left. One small pile left.
Well, those piles are going to run us, I think, about $400 million, if I had to guess. And we are working with MEMA. And we put another $20 million into MEMA to cover their expenses, additional expenses. But we're getting better numbers every day, and I'm real hopeful that we'll settle on a number and get that money out to the cities and the counties that desperately need it. I'm real pleased that we were able to come together with the House and send the bill over, and now we're looking at the monetary contribution in there so we can get started.
So $100 million revolving 0% interest loan. So cities can apply for, draw down on that number, and then pay it back.
That's correct. They'll be able to pay a good bit of it back from FEMA reimbursement. Thank goodness for President Trump. We'll have better more timely reimbursement. It usually runs almost a year and a half, but we want to cover that transition so they don't have to go borrow money from the banks or anything like that. And then in addition to that, we're looking at how much money there will be in addition that may be granted to help them with their part of the FEMA grant. Right now, 75% is paid by the federal government. We pay the other half of 25%, and the cities and counties are responsible for their 12.5%. But there's some credit for voluntary work. And the weekends that I was up there, I can't tell you how many people were out. I'm sure you experienced the same thing, Richard. We were out, everything from Panola all the way to Alcorn, taking water and food and stuff like that. But there were people everywhere, not only cutting limbs, feeding people, just helping everybody. No electricity, warming, thousands of. Our friends Elon Musk gave us 500 generators in one county. So it's just an amazing outpouring of neighbor helping neighbor in Mississippi. That's why we live here, and those voluntary things count towards some of this money. So we've got to do a lot of calculations here, but the first thing to do is get our counties and our cities some money to operate on.
Yeah, from the wealthiest man in the world making donations to people that barely have, they're trying to figure out how to pay their own light bill, but they are also extending their hand to help a neighbor. It certainly. In what was a difficult and hard and ugly time in a lot of ways, there was some real beauty in watching people come together to help each other.
That was a major economic blow to that part of the state, and we don't really recover from that immediately. Those people that were living in the cold and had to move out somewhere else, and of course they couldn't work, and just a very strenuous time period for them, and I'm glad we're coming out the other side of that, and now we'll be help the cities and the counties get through the financial part.
I have readily admitted that I was wrong on the number of bills. I might have been a little hyperbolic about that. There's more that has gotten done. One thing that has not gotten done yet and doesn't get done until the end of the session because of the bills that are in process are the budget. I do have it on pretty good authority that a lot of work has been done behind the scenes that has both sides ahead in the budget process from where we were at least a year ago this time. Is that accurate?
It is accurate. And right the first day, I got with our head of appropriations. We have appropriations. They have different ones in the House, and we do. But Briggs Hobson handles our side. So I got with Briggs and I told him we needed to start doing the easy ones as soon as possible, the ones that really didn't affect major parts of the budget. And he's been really good about doing that, and the House is really good about meeting with him on that. And we've sent a number of bills over in final form, which means that's our budget for the year. I'm pleased at the progress they're making, and they've been meeting as recently as yesterday, going over the things that they need to be doing. And so we're on track to get down to the hard ones now this next week, which would be, your health care budget, your corrections budget, finalizing the education budget, Medicare. Medicare has asked us for $390 million. over their budget from last year. In our budget this year, we had cut our budget actually by a few $1 million, and we're expecting an overage of about $279 million. $390 million, of course, is more than we've got. Mm-hmm. That just, you start with that, and there are other ones that are drawing on this. So their
this is good.
Requests significantly in excess of the amount of money we have. That's why these guys will be very busy trying to balance a budget. Thank goodness we.
And that number's going up each year, right?
Well, not really. This last year, we actually cut the budget for this year. We actually we reduced the amount of budget that we put in. Now it's gone up some. The amount collected right now,
I'm sorry,
was $279 million over.
I meant specific to Medicare, Medicaid. That number is continuing to grow.
That is just a staggering amount of money, and. You think what happened to us was we did the prudent thing. We saved the 5% Biden additional funds that he provided, and we kept about $500 to $600 million. So every year we've been spending that down instead of spending it all in the last 3 or 4 years, and that number was $235 million last year. So we spent $235 million of our savings account in Medicare on keeping it up to this year. So and then they had a deficit of about $35 million. So the break even for them is $260 million.
It's a scary number,
which along with the others is more than we have. So this will now be a time in which we have to prioritize the financial affairs of the state, and we've got good people on both sides that are one of them's Clay DeWeese and on the House side up in your neighborhood. And then Briggs and our group here, Dennis DeBar, and we have a different structure. Most all of our senators on the appropriations committee have different offices that they cover. So we've done all of our preliminary work, and we're ready to go to work on the rest of it. But there will be cuts, Richard, because there's more money asked than there is money in the till.
Yeah. Visiting with Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. Got a few minutes left this morning. You and I have talked about this off the air, IHL, and kind of what's going on with that. We saw the performance-based funding bill get shut down in a House committee, and so not even going to explore that further right now and back to the drawing board. I think I would submit that IHL is inefficient at best in the way that it operates, but it is a constitutionally appointed entity within the state of Mississippi. Mm-hmm. But the legislature supplies the money for IHL to distribute kind of as it sees fit right now. Where are we in this conversation, and why are we running away from the idea of performance-based funding instead of this socialistic system that's in place right now where everybody gets something regardless of whether they're producing positive outcomes or not?
We shouldn't. To answer you clearly, we should not. And there are a number of reasons for this. When you don't do performance-based budgeting, what you do is you reward people who are not achieving. Now, we in Mississippi have limited resources. We're doing a heck of a lot better. As you saw, our bond rating went up the other day because we have fixed the retirement plan, which was a miracle in its own self, that we do a balanced budget, and during my term, we'll have paid off $1.45 billion of debt. So if you reward non-performing assets, you are actually holding back performing assets,
yes,
like you do in any business. So we have significant disparities in people that are going to school and are actually graduating from that university, and what they graduate in, and then also what is their actual degree worth. So we have some things that IHL should be structuring now and should be working on it. They had a formula, they didn't follow it, and now they're trying to do another formula and paying somebody $250,000 to figure that out. So
I feel like it's easy to gloss over what you just said. They had a formula in place.
That's correct.
And just chose not to follow it.
That's correct.
And now are seeking another formula from the same company that built the last formula.
Plus $250,000. So is
that their own money, or is that taxpayer money that's paying for that?
Well, we pay for about 25% of the universities, and 75% comes from tuition and people that raise, like Mark Kim does a great job, gets federal grants. So
I was being flippant there.
But some of it's our money, certainly, absolutely. And we have this cliff coming. There are less births coming, so there are going to be less people there. So you need to prioritize how many buildings, how many professors, how much you need, how many dorm rooms you need to keep up. Those kinds of things you need to prioritize. And then people vote with their money. How many kids are actually signing up to go to your school? And why? What do you have to offer that other schools don't have to offer? And what is your results when somebody graduates? Do they get a really high-paying job? All of those are things that they should be looking at, and there are alternatives being considered, at least in the Senate. And I'm not sure about the House on how to address those.
If you want to hang through the break, I'll give you the final word on the other side.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thanks.
Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Back after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you.
Easter.
Mornings with Richard Cross. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, 8 o'clock hour just around the corner. Lars Larson will be my guest at 8:30 this morning. Look forward to that conversation. You hear the Lars Larson Show here, 6 p.m. weeknights on Super Talk Mississippi. But right now my guest is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann, always gracious with his time. We were talking before the break about the IHL, about our colleges and universities, and I wonder where this conversation goes forward. Is this conversation dead in terms of how do we fix IHL? How do we get our schools performing right? How do we start funding them? And why was it killed this year?
It is not dead, and it is looming here. And I think most things at the Capitol, you bring these issues up one year and there's some discussions about them and you fix them the next year. And so it is not by any need dead. And it's something I think is in the long-term health, intellectual health, and future growth of the state. And it is critical to us to have as many college graduates and as least debt as we can and in meaningful employment. So, no, it's not dead and by any stretch of the imagination. So we'll see how it comes from here.
Is there enough of a relationship between the ideas of workforce development and what our colleges and universities are doing? Colleges and universities and community colleges.
We have expanded that a lot. As you know, the Senate did away with this the program that they had before, and we now got Accelerate, which is 7 people working on this. And they work directly with the community colleges and the universities, marrying up the job placements that we're getting, whether it be AI or welding or ships or whatever, all the stuff we're building. They marry those up with the degrees at the various universities and community colleges, and that's going exceptionally well. It's much better than when we started it a few years ago. So I'm real pleased with that part, and we're making real progress on that. And we're making progress on other things. We got the retirement plan coming back this year. As you know, we changed.
That's where I was headed next.
Yeah, we. Have you ever ridden with a policeman at night? Have you ever done that?
I have not. I know Lance has done that on a number of occasions.
And I did too. And one night I rode with this guy, and all these different things that go on during his life. One of them, we pulled up in this little bitty narrow street, and there was a lady that had been hit by a 2x4 laying in the street, not moving. And this very narrow houses with little front porches on it, but dead dark and cold. And he sat there for a second, and they won't bring the ambulance in unless he clears it. He said, I got to walk up and see that lady. And he said, look, this is going to be dangerous. I want you to get out and stand in front of the police car and look like a narcotics agent. They usually won't shoot those. So it was cold. I had a big coat on, so I puffed my chest. I don't know what a narcotics agent's supposed to look like, but I got out and put my hand in one of my pockets and stood in front of the police car while he went down there to see this lady, and then we waved the ambulance in, and she came and took her.
The word usually is a little disconcerting in this story, by the way. They usually don't shoot narcotics agents.
That did bother me a little bit at the time. We'd become friends. He's a big country and western singer. So but anyway, they lived that life every day. Every night, if people knew what those people went through, they are part lawyer, part PT expert. They got to be in great physical shape. They got to be mentally competent. They got to be a psychologist. I mean, you pick all the things that a policeman on the beat has to make instantaneous decisions about these people. You can see that on the stories, Cops, you watch that TV series. Same with firemen. They got to be chemists. They got to have instantaneous decisions. They got to, about whether something's going to blow up on them or not. They got to be in great physical shape to run around with all of that stuff. They really deserve additional funds from the cities and the counties. They work for the cities. They don't work for the state. And the counties, of course, is deputy sheriffs. So they need additional compensation, and they need work on their retirement plan. And I was interested. The governor said the other day that he thought they all ought to have the option to do a 401k plan as opposed to the hybrid that was recommended by the committee and by the PERS committee, which was part DB and part 401k plan. I think that's interesting. I think that's something we'll look at. But
so in that scenario, the contribution amount that was going to the hybrid would just go into their 401k, and then they would have control over it?
They have a choice. Well, I can tell you this.
Or a match, I suppose.
I did the numbers. A $50,000 worker working for the next 30 years and earning 8% like the retirement plan does, when you look at that person at 30 years, he has $670,000 in his account. And there's not a lot of state workers that would have $600,000 at age 52. So there are great benefits, and I don't think we've really communicated that well with these individuals. And we have to take into account the life that they live here every day, and the ability for them to get hurt, and in some unbelievable times they actually get shot.
And both the House and the Senate are for getting this done in terms of PERS adjustments for first responders, right?
Yeah, I can't speak for the House, but we have, I think, 4 or 5 bills that would allow them to come back to work, get full retirement, come back to work, lower the number of years they have to work to retirement. There's about 5 or 6 things that we've got that are going on. We put in a COLA for the new employees. That would be a separate set of money, that kind of thing.
The back to work is for all state employees, not just teachers, right?
That's correct. And we if we lower the retirement age, I think we need to lower it for everybody.
Okay.
Not just our firemen, obviously, and our policemen.
Seems to make a lot of sense.
It does, and we're edging forward as we go about making sure that our state did not go broke. Social Security goes broke in 2032, and we weren't going to let our Mississippi, our retirees and our workers go broke too.
Thank you for your time.
It's good to see you, Richard. Keep in touch.
Super Talk Mississippi.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Here we go. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross.
now that's entertainment.
My thanks to the Lieutenant Governor, Delbert Hosemann, for coming on and spending about 45 minutes with us talking about all that is going on in the legislature. I maintain that from the very first day that I filled in for Paul Gallo into the transition time when this kind of became my full-time gig, I have said, and I will continue to argue, that the House and the Senate are not that far apart on most issues. And I think you hear that in the conversation that we just had with Delbert Hosemann. Now, there are very much differences of opinion on how we get to the finish line. And if you were with us a couple of weeks ago, and I know it's been up on social media, and I've gotten a fair amount of feedback on that question I asked, what's the point of continuing to vote Republican? I guess answering my own question, the point is that ideologically, we're pretty close, which is the part that makes, which is what makes the fact that there's at times so much animus between the House and the Senate so incredibly frustrating. I had a good friend who has worked in state government, doesn't currently, but has in the past, say, Richard, I really like the jalapeno sausage that comes from deer meat. I don't want to watch the processor get to the finished product. I want to drop the deer off at the processor, and I want to pick up the meat a couple of weeks later, and I want to enjoy it. There's nothing enjoyable about watching the process. And I guess I have to remember that when it comes to the state legislature. It is the proverbial sausage factory, and the process is not pretty, and there are things that we are going to be frustrated about as citizens of the state of Mississippi. But with this Republican majority in the House and the Senate, and every statewide office being held by Republicans in Mississippi, we're net positive. We're net positive. And the sausage factory piece of it is not fun, and it doesn't move fast enough. And sometimes, as Lieutenant Governor Hosemann said just a moment ago, an issue comes up and it's talked about in a year, and a bill's killed. But it lays the groundwork to come back and fix the problem a year from now. I've been told that the funding formula that the IHL is looking at, and by the way, the people who put together the formula are operating at the behest of the, is it president or, it's not the chair of the committee, I guess it's the president of IHL. He lays out the framework for which InChimps, the company that's going to put together a funding formula that the IHL, I don't know, will they use it this time? Maybe if it serves their purposes. But it's the leader of IHL that lays out the framework for which the formula is going to be put together. I don't think all of the IHL members, the members that are appointed by the governor, know what all is in the formula. Maybe they do more now after a committee hearing last week. But the most recent conversation is that the formula that InChimps is working on, or InChim is working on, would not count out-of-state students toward progress. Obviously, that would be a detriment to Mississippi State and to Ole Miss, because there's a large number of out-of-state students. Ole Miss has a larger population of out-of-state students than Mississippi State does. That's just one of the issues. But the IHL conversation is not going away. Thank goodness. According to the Lieutenant Governor, it's not going away. I don't know that we're going to get anywhere on it this year. That does not appear to be a priority going toward all the conference meetings that are happening right now. Covered a lot of ground there with the Lieutenant Governor. Mornings of Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. We're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. I'm just going to own a loss. I'm not going to try and spin it for you. When I said 4 bills have made it to the governor's desk and have been signed into law at this point, that's not enough. I was being a little hyperbolic with that number, but I'll just take the loss on that. We obviously talked about a lot of other things that have made it to the governor's desk and have been signed by the governor. Delbert Hosemann said there's only one that has been returned without signature by the governor. But the biggest issues that we were looking at, we have been looking at, we continue to look at in this legislative session are still out there. And they are still up for a lot of debate. One of the things that Lieutenant Governor Hosemann talked about a moment ago was PERS, the retirement system. The Tier 5 piece went into place a year ago. Interesting suggestion that he mentioned. He said that he thought that they would talk about and look at that came from the governor was just going to a straight 401k as opposed to the hybrid system that is in place. It's very similar to probably what most of you have in your workplace. There is a match for your contributions up to a certain amount. That works for most of us. Sure, there are lots of us that would love to have some sort of a pension where there was a guaranteed retirement benefit. Those have gone away in almost every segment of industry that exists in the country today because they're not financially feasible for companies going forward, which means they're also not financially feasible for states and the federal government to have in place. We'll see where that goes. But I think you have seen, based on the bills that have come from both the House and what you just heard from the Lieutenant Governor, that there's a recognition that first responders, those who are in high risk, high stress fields of employment, should probably not have the same length of work requirement as those who are in less high risk, less high stress jobs. Maybe that 35 years comes down to 30 years for everybody, and it comes down to 25 years for first responders. I love that we are seemingly headed for teachers being able to go back to the classroom. Lieutenant Governor took it a step farther, said it needs to be all state workers. You retire after your required number of years of service, you can begin to draw retirement benefits, but you can go back at some percentage of your previous salary. 80%, I think, is the number that has been most commonly used for that, and it doesn't affect your retirement benefits. That makes sense, especially in a state where in almost every segment of employment, we've got jobs that are available. And we are trying to fill those jobs with good people, especially in the education field. If somebody puts in 30 years and they're ready to start taking advantage of those retirement benefits, but they've got good work years remaining and want to return to the workforce, they can do so at a reasonable percentage of what they were making before retirement without effect on their retirement benefits. That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, and it solves some of the problem that we have with regard to a teacher shortage and shortages in other areas as well. So hopefully, as we go to conference, Senate and the House put their heads together, personalities can be set aside, and we can get to good resolution for the people of the state of Mississippi. I don't think we're going to get there on universal school choice, but how is that going to affect the other good parts of House Bill 2? You may think that universal school choice is a good part of House Bill 2. That's fine. I'm not suggesting one way or the other. I don't know that there's going to be compromise on that particular issue, but can we get to the finish line in the areas where there is compromise? Have you noticed a change in advertising? First, it was the Clydesdales. Now it's Mickey Mouse. What am I talking about? We'll tell you next.
From the Venable Glass.
The coffee is hot, but the truth is even hotter.
It's hot news.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Yeah, it's hot news.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Have you got the nerve to pop a tart from your door? Woke up this morning, baby, I had them stage spare blues. Stage spare Georgia, that is. Woke up this morning, had them stage spare blues. Look over the corner.
Good to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. We're a couple of years removed now from the Dylan Mulvaney fiasco with Bud Light. You remember that story from a year ago?
Yeah, get a collector's can from that deal.
You did get one?
Yeah, of course. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I didn't.
Good for you.
Didn't keep it.
This year in the Super Bowl, we saw the return of the Clydesdales. Obviously, that is a Budweiser commercial, not a Bud Light commercial, but it's all under the Anheuser-Busch, which is what, InBev, umbrella. It was a return to more wholesome advertising, more tug-at-your-heartstrings advertising. What was it this year? They put a dog on the back of the Clydesdale?
Yeah, there's some dogs, right?
I mean, dogs and horses, it's about as all-American as it gets. And it resonates with a lot of people. It is not woke. Hate that word. But you understand what I mean. Well, there's another company, one by which I am employed, Disney, that has made a lot of decisions in the last few years that much of mainstream America is not really in line with. And you've seen it in Disney movies. Princesses are not necessarily girls anymore. Princes are not necessarily boys. You know what I'm talking about. We don't have to go example by example. But Disney Cruise Lines is a massive entity. And they have dropped a new advertisement that, in my mind, falls in line with the return of Clydesdales from Anheuser-Busch. A commercial that simply tugs on your heartstrings. Incredibly relatable if you are a father. If you are a dad, there is, and you played any role in the raising of young children, there's a really good chance that somewhere along the way, you took one for the team. You let mom stay in bed and sleep, and you took the night shift. And your night shift might look a little different than mom's night shift. It might have involved picking up your baby boy or your baby girl and taking them on a walk in the neighborhood, just around the house. One of the things that I did with our kids was they would seemingly calm down sometimes when we put them in the car seat and went for a ride. Can't count the number of times that I did that at midnight or 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning. Kid wakes up crying, can't sleep, won't sleep. Walk around for a little while, can't figure anything out there, put him in the car seat, just go for a ride in the middle of the night. Well, this new Disney ad has a baby that can't sleep, and they're on a Disney cruise. And Dad picks the baby up out of the crib, Mom kind of stirs, and he goes, "Hey, we're going for a walk." And he walks around the ship while it is at sea, calmness of the night. And then you see that same baby as a toddler who can't sleep. And he and Dad are walking around on the deck of the ship while at sea. And then that toddler turns into a tween and wakes Dad up and says, "Can we go for our walk now?" And then that tween turns into a teenager, and Dad thinks the walks are over and goes out on the deck on his own, only to have the teenager come out and stand beside him, and they walk around. And it fast forwards to a grandfather staring out the window of the cruise ship, clearly reflecting on those past walks and realizing that those are over. And he climbs into bed with his wife, and then there's a knock at the door on the cruise ship cabin, and it's the son that he took all those walks with on the boat, holding a newborn who can't sleep, and says, "Hey, Dad, he can't sleep. You want to go for a walk?" If you watch the thing, there's a good chance, especially if you were a dad that went for one of those walks or went for one of those rides at night when little boy, little girl couldn't sleep, tugs at the heartstrings and might get the tears flowing just a little bit. It's a return to what connects with people across the board. So, to Disney, I tip my cap. Maybe we tip our caps. If you haven't seen that, it's floating around on social media all over the place. Just search for new Disney ad and you will like it a lot. Somebody says it was an eagle, not a dog. I think that was a rolling eye. Oh, I forgot. Okay. That's right. It was an eagle. And it was an eagle with Freebird playing in the background, which makes it even better. Freebird, which has become like a secondary national anthem for a bunch. C-Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. Thomas in Greenwood. So, hire retired teachers for 20% less and sideline a recent graduate looking for a job. No, Thomas, I don't think anybody's suggesting that. As I said multiple times, we have a teacher shortage in Mississippi. Yes, you want new hires. Yes, you want to bring new teachers into the workforce, new graduates into the workforce. And if they want to be teachers, there are opportunities that abound for them. But those new graduates are not filling the role of the teacher shortage that we have in Mississippi. If they were, we wouldn't be having this conversation about bringing retired teachers back into the workforce. So it's a both and proposition, not an either or proposition. And you knew that before you sent that message. But you want to be a contrarian. And that's fine. I don't mind you for that. Hogman jumps into the C-Spire text line. He says, "Woo pig." Which I think, I'm just choosing to believe that is his way of saying, "Good job, Disney." Maybe Hogman just woke up and wanted to call the Hogs. He's kind of riding high after Arkansas took a series again this weekend from Mississippi State in baseball. And the Razorbacks won the SEC basketball tournament. So maybe he's just high on the hog right now. Thanks, Hogman. So they said, except for college football coaches, they have great retirement when they get fired. They do. Yes, they do. All right, what about at the national level? The SAVE Act. Senate Republicans are ready to press the issue on the SAVE Act. Interesting story at the Hill talking about the plans that are in place. John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, has said, I hate to be the wet blanket on all this, but we don't have the votes to sustain a talking filibuster or a traditional filibuster. Mike Lee is the senator who has been leading the charge on Get the SAVE Act done and is a leading proponent of the bill. And so what he wants, and what it sounds like other Senate Republicans that are for the SAVE Act want, is to get the bill onto the floor and begin a long, long debate. Now, it's a double-edged sword, because what the Republicans' plan seems to be is to raise amendment after amendment and have Democrats go on record as voting no for a number of the amendments. The idea is that you can simply wear down Democrats over an extended period of time. Mike Lee compared it to the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the battle that took place there. In 1964, There was a 32-vote cloture deficit at the time that it came from the House to the Senate. And they were able to close that 32-vote cloture deficit, but it took them 60 days to do it. The Senate Republicans that are in favor of getting the SAVE Act in place have the will and the fortitude to debate something for 60 days to try and get this across the finish line? I guess time will tell. Lars Larson joins us next.
From the Seabrook.
On your smart speaker, phone, computer, and FM on your radio. Everywhere you listen, you'll find the voice of Mississippi. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV. Glad to have Lars Larson joining me right now. He is the host of the Lars Larson Show. You can hear that 6 p.m. weekdays right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Lars, I'd like to talk to you about two things, and you might say that they are not connected, but I think they could be if you look at it from this standpoint. Our appetite as Americans for doing hard things is less, I think, than it has ever been. We live in a world in which we consume our news primarily through short snippets on X or Instagram or Snapchat or wherever that may be. We want it fast and we want to move on to the next thing. Let's start with the war in Iran. What is happening right there? We are already seeing an appetite with many Americans not to have this be a prolonged conflict. And I don't think that's wrong in and of itself. But if history repeats itself and we don't finish the job, it doesn't seem like this will have been a noble or a just cause. I think back to Operation Desert Shield, which turned into Operation Desert Storm, when we didn't go all the way to Baghdad and finish the job initially. Will we find the will? Does this administration have the will, with the help of some of the Gulf states, to finish the job on Iran?
I think the answer to that is yes, Richard. And by the way, it's great to be on Super Talk. Number one, Donald Trump's already telegraphing that we're going to get to the end of this fairly quickly, even though the Democrats seem to want it to go on forever. 5 days into the war, they were calling it a forever war, an endless war. And I remember thinking, you're 5 days into something and you're already calling it a forever war? Yes, Afghanistan went on way too long. There was no exit. Iran or Iraq, you're right, is the same. I think we will finish. And in fact, the other signal that we're getting, the energy secretary, and I assume when one of the cabinet secretaries talks, they're talking with the boss's approval. Energy sec already said, yeah, we're probably a few more weeks of these high gas prices and then we're out of it. Now, I hope that's true. If he has good reason to believe it's true, and I think it would be foolish for a cabinet secretary to make that prediction, say, a few more weeks, then the gas prices start coming back down. I realize people in the Gulf of America or on the Gulf of America actually already enjoy low gas prices, not so much in my neck of the woods. But yeah, I think we have the ability to get it done. And I keep hearing people saying, well, you have to put boots on the ground. The latest action Friday night was the hit on Karg Island. Now, my wife knows I've been harping on Karg Island for 30 years because I've said Iran has one thing that brings in currency for the most part. I mean, other than a few goat sales, they sell oil. And where does 90% of the oil go through? It goes through Karg Island, which is this little spot. I mean, think about this. It's 7.7 square miles. So think of it as 4 miles by 2 miles. It's smaller than some cities' downtown core area. It's tiny. And on it, if you look at Google Earth, look up Karg, Karg Island, it looks like a giant tank farm that you'd find outside of a refinery down on the Gulf of America. And so you hit that, 90% of their paycheck goes away. So they've lost their Navy. They have no control of the skies over Iran. Their Air Force is effectively gone. Their missiles and drones are running out. The drones they were selling to Russia are running out. So all these things are happening. And their two biggest customers, India and China, won't be able to get any oil if we hit Karg Island. Trump hit them Friday night, but apparently not in a way that devastated the infrastructure. but it's what they used to call a shot across the bow. Mm-hmm. We hit you, we can hit you again. I mean, think about your favorite, Clint Eastwood or Val Kilmer movie or a John Wick movie. If you put a shot right next to the guy's ear, you're telling him, we can hit you right now. And that's what they did to Karg Island. So if we've told the Iranians, you've got almost no mobile military anymore, you still have the IRGC, but we can cut off your oil sales just like that, and then you're done. Now, does that make sense?
It does. I mean, it's the idea that I could have shot you directly between the eyes, but instead I intentionally missed to the left or the right just a little bit, but I've still got bullets in the chamber.
Yeah, that's the way it works. So, I mean, is that what we're going to, are we looking at a very short-term war with the Iranians caving in? The other thing that Trump said over the weekend, I forgot to mention it, he said they've offered a ceasefire, but their terms are not good enough yet. He wants unconditional. He wants them to say we're giving up the nuclear program and altogether. And I think that should happen.
One of the points that he made about the people of Iran that are not in favor of the IRGC is they're scared and they have no weapons. 32,000, give or take, of them were killed during an uprising back in January by the IRGC. And so there probably are people that would like to speak out against the regime, that would like to push back, but they don't have the ability to do so. How do they get to the point where they do have that ability?
You know what I hope, Richard, and I know there are a lot of things that and this has analogs here in our society as well. There are things the police do to catch criminals that they don't tell the public, this is what we're doing, because if you give up your tactics, then the tactic is no good anymore.
Yeah.
Do you suspect that we may be finding a way to get weapons to some of the Iranian rebels who've been tortured by their country? And let me connect this back to domestic politics here. The Democrats are standing up and objecting to the displacement of a regime that just slaughtered anywhere from, the numbers either 20,000 to 50,000 of their own people in a few months. Yeah. And you say, you're going to stand up and defend a regime that's willing to murder 20 to 50,000 of its own people just because they're speaking out? I mean, what kind of, if the Democrats want to go into the November election saying, we're the ones who stand up for Iranian dictators, mad mullahs in Tehran. We're the ones that stand up for the human traffickers like the Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. We're the ones that stand up for releasing hardened criminals from prison. If that's the campaign you want to run this November, have at it.
And yet, Republicans, I think, if they're honest right now, are scared to death of what the midterms may look like. It's hard to wrap your mind around when you say what you just said out loud, and yet that's kind of the spot that we are. So the second piece that I said I wanted to talk to you about, with the idea that we're not great at doing hard things anymore, the Senate has to do something very difficult if they are going to pass the SAVE Act, voter ID, proof of citizenship to vote in American elections. It's something that, on the surface to me, I think to you as well, makes a ton of sense. It makes common sense. We want free elections. We want fair elections. We want open elections. This is a great way to do it. Obviously, we have a very slim margin in the Senate, and not all Republicans are on board with this. And now there's this talk of taking over the Senate in a way that wouldn't necessarily involve a talking filibuster. Is this going to work?
Well, I think if we have to blow up the filibuster, I've never liked the filibuster. And I understand they'll say, but you will like it when the Democrats are back in the majority. That's not the point. Richard, I look at it this way. If I came to Mississippi and I said, I want control of a company, and they said, okay, how you plan to do that? Well, I plan to buy enough of the company, 51%, so I control six of the 10 board seats on the board of directors. And you say, okay, 6 out of 10, that should get me the majority. And then they say, no, you need 7.5 out of 10. I mean, this is what we're told with the filibuster. The Senate's rule, not the law, not the Constitution, not what the people insist on. The Senate wrote a rule that said if 51 senators are in favor of something, they represent 51 of the 100 senators. That's a majority. But I'm sorry, we can't pass anything until we get to 60. Now, what kind of dumb rule is that? to say to the American public, we know you elected these senators. They represent you. You have 51 out of 100. So you have more than half, but we still can't pass legislation till you get to 60. Well, the Republicans aren't in 60, and I don't see much prospect for the Democrats to get to 60 even in the days ahead, especially the way they're behaving lately. So you're telling us you can't do anything. I think the reason that senators, both Democrats and Republicans, like this, Richard, they don't have to do their jobs. Because they can always say, well, we'd love to pass that legislation. I'm totally in favor of it, but I'm sorry, we don't have 60 votes. Why? Because of a rule. Who wrote that rule? We wrote the rule. And it means we don't have to do our job. Now, I think if the Republicans want this to change, if they're saying we've got a slim majority, okay, I got you there, call out the ones who will vote to sustain getting rid of the filibuster or a talking filibuster, one way or the other. I don't think they want to do that. But I think we should. If we got spineless Republicans, and there have always been spineless rhino Republicans, fine. Call them out. Tell the public, these are the folks. I mean, they don't hesitate in the Republican Party to call out Democrats who are doing things. They'll rail on Schumer all day long, and they should. He's a knucklehead. But if they won't call out their own members saying, we want to pass this thing, and you're right. I've been emphasizing for months to my audience 3 things the SAVE Act does. 1, prove you're a citizen and you're eligible to vote. 2, picture ID, government picture ID, easy to get. Although the Democrats tell you no black man in America knows how to get a driver's license, which is so insulting. We ought to run it on a loop all the way to November. And number 3, your ballot has to be in by close of business on Election Day. The American public in the polls says we love all 3 of those ideas. So let's do it. And the Republicans are going to fail to pass something that has 70 to 80% public support. They might as well just resign their seats.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Lars Larson, always appreciate your time. Check out the Lars Larson Show, 6 p.m. weekdays right here on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Talk to you soon, my friend.
Always my pleasure.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Hi, fellow citizens. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Right here, right now.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and at SuperTalk TV. I appreciate Lars Larson joining us this morning. Appreciate all of your messages on the C Spire text line as well. Quick reminder, Middays with Gerard Gibbert will be at the Westin in downtown Jackson tomorrow. He will be there for the Madison County Business League and Foundation, along with Pracon Global Investment Group's annual luncheon. The keynote speaker will be the man that you heard from on the radio this morning, Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. That's Middays with Gerard Gibbert tomorrow at the Westin in downtown Jackson. Interesting letter that has been made public this morning from Joe Kent. Joseph Kent was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. Offers his resignation to the president. He says, after much reflection, I have decided to resign my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war with Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. He goes on in the letter to point out that he supported the values and the foreign policies on which Donald Trump campaigned in 2016, 2020, and 2024, but that early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined the America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiment to encourage war with Iran. He writes, as a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people nor justifies the cost of American lives. He closes his letter by writing, it was an honor to serve in your administration and to serve our great nation. And he tagged POTUS and D&I Gabbard in his post on X. I appreciate the principle by which Joseph Kent is operating and on the decision that he made. That's a personal decision that he's got to make. The idea, though, that Iran posed no threat to the United States is just silly.
I've been killing people for 47 years, Americans.
Have posed a threat, do pose a threat, will pose a threat with the IRGC and the Ayatollah in control. In 3 weeks, the United States has crippled the IRGC. And based on reports, has the support of the Gulf states that Iran lobbed bombs and missiles to after they were initially attacked by the United States and Israel. A stable Middle East, I don't know if that's just a pipe dream. We've been talking about stability in the Middle East for a really, really long time. This is the most decisive action, though, that has ever been taken to legitimately stabilize the Middle East. Iran is the largest sponsor of state terrorism in the world. They funded multiple terrorist groups that attacked Americans and our allies, and have been doing it, as Lance pointed out, for 47 years. And so while I appreciate the personal conviction of Joseph Kent, and I have no problem with him saying, I don't believe in this, I can't stand behind this, I'm offering my resignation. I'm tendering my resignation effective today. Outstanding. The idea or the sentiment that this is a war that serves no benefit to the American people nor justifies the cost of American lives is disingenuous at best. Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota are located on Highway 6 West in Oxford. The team there is ready to help you and ready for the opportunity to earn your business. Whether you live in Oxford, North Mississippi, the central part of the state, on the coast, or out of state, Belk would love to work with you. They've got a great selection on the lot right now. F-150s, F-250s, Expeditions, Explorers, and a whole lot more in their previously owned lot as well, their pre-owned lot. Tons of options. The best financing that you will find. They'll help you get in the car or truck that you are looking for at a price that you can afford. Not pushy with their sales tactics. They're going to listen to what you need. I've been doing business with Belk Ford for nearly 30 years. Would encourage you to check them out as well. Tell them I sent you. Belk Ford, Oxford Toyota, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday edition of Mornings with Richard Cross. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.